So how far are we from a compromise? That is the $64,000 question. But at least the two sides are kind of talking. The president today met with the bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus. We don't yet have any detail on their discussion, but if you recall, 2 days ago, Democrats refused to even show up to the White House. And after the meeting, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said, quote, the president and his team had a constructive meeting with bipartisan members of the Problem Solvers Caucus. They listened to one another and now both have a good understanding of what the other wants. We look forward to more conversations like this. Here's the rub. Democrats say they will not discuss border security until the government reopens. But we can't have a reopened government until we have a secure border. And the president says he won't reopen anything until he gets his wall money. So how do you get out of this catch-22? Let's meet tonight's panel. She's here, Fox Nation hosting first-time panelist Britt McHenry. Woo! Along with Reason Magazine editor-at-large and host of the Fifth Column podcast, award-winning and devastatingly fantastic Matt Welch, and talk radio host and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall in the house. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. So, you know, I can be really hard on Republicans when it comes to immigration, but I think Democrats could do a little bit more. You know, when Chip Roy talks about those things, when he talks about clearing Kane and having drones and better border security and more beds and easing the humanitarian crisis, I mean, you and some of your friends on the left have to listen to that and go, yeah, no, I totally see this. And isn't that a way out of this whole thing?
Well, a few things. First of all, I want to say, great interview, because I was sitting here going, rah, rah, you're making all my talking points. First, I get so annoyed in being on, boards of committees regarding human sex trafficking, thinking that we only have a border with Mexico. We have 4 borders, and, people really just Google the numbers on sex trafficking and how many are going over or under the border of Mexico versus elsewhere. So that kind of really irritates me. But to your point, Democrats, and when he said the Secure the Fence Act, Nancy Pelosi was one of the Democrats who voted no for that, by the way. When you look at what Democrats have agreed to with Republicans, you have $1.3 billion that addresses a lot of what he says, and it's a start. You don't need to build that wall. Drones in a wall don't help with the 3 tunnels, just 3, in the last 3 days that were uncovered. Don't help with 790 kilos that came in through the port in Pennsylvania, largest cocaine bust in 10 years. It doesn't help with that. If we want and we need a comprehensive immigration reform package that includes extreme border security that's effective. This is ineffective. And if he says, oh, when you get to the rancher's house, if they don't want it, just leave a hole. Well, then there goes your wall.
Doesn't everyone go through the ranchers?
Well, and to your point about El Chapo, they did not go through any of those unchecked points.
No.
And you can watch Narcos Mexico for an exciting thing.
No, it's fantastic. And Netflix also has a series on El Chapo.
Yes,
so
awesome.
We've seen the Problem Solvers Caucus. Would you be a part of the Troublemakers Caucus if you were in Congress?
I would be part of the I want to go in and eat some of those Wendy's burgers caucus, I think.
The hamburgers?
With the hamburgers with Clemson. No, the problem is the political calculation here is just that it started off as an impasse and it's not getting anywhere better. I mean, the negotiating position that the president laid out for himself is terrible, and it's not going to get better with any passing second. So either he has to cave. The Democrats are not going to cave at this point. It's just not going to happen. They started off with leverage. They now have more leverage, and nobody supporting them is going to want to do anything to try to have the president get out of it.
Well, there's 2 things that I see here. One, there's got to be more than 1.3 or 1.6 billion because we can't do this every time. That's number one. Number 2, Democrats are supposed to be for workers, and you have a lot of unionized workers who aren't getting paid right now, and Nancy Pelosi doesn't seem to care. She just wears her little Harry Potter scarf and badmouths DHS.
I think that she's just not going to be feeling the heat for that right now. Such as the focus on Trump. He owned this thing in December, and that's it. And the American people through polls have said they've added more blame to him. The wall has become less popular. We are fetishizing the border at this point.
Yes,
at some point,
on both sides.
Everything has to do with the border and not about other parts of the
to Britt, and this is a side you don't hear a lot about, but there was a really interesting story on FoxNews.com about people in Mexico being really frustrated with some of their neighbors down south, saying don't come through here. And a lot of people saying we don't have the resources to support people. You're going to be stuck here. The conditions are awful. And, you know, you hear a lot about the American side, the humanitarian crisis, but what they're dealing with in Mexico sounds like it's a lot worse.
Yeah, there were reports a couple weeks ago of a lot of, because what we're seeing is a lot of these migrants from Central America coming up through Mexico, reports and accusations, Molotov cocktails being thrown and them not being able to contain it. Now, the truth to that or not, I think all of you made really good points on this is an issue that's just so strong with the base, 61% of
Both
Republicans.
sides. Yeah.
Yeah, well, 61% of his strong base number, Pew Research Center, says they still want that wall. So the only problem is it's a precarious situation because Nancy Pelosi may be the only one to play Donald Trump right now, which is what she's doing and putting that Gryffindor scarf on if it's Harry Potter and doing the deflection. He is a person that's just going to keep going the other way. Like, there is no compromise there. And when you see government workers in D.C., 2,200 people getting free food from the Capitol Food Bank, you know, my friend filing for unemployment this week, yes, they might get that money later, but I think you have to also know that
If that's a federal program,
people,
is there anyone manning that program? So are
there's a
people
lot
who
of
normally
volunteers.
process those requests, or are they also submitting them?
I mean, Jose Andres, the celebrity chef, you know, he's giving out free food on Pennsylvania Avenue this week.
Have you ever been to Haleo?
No,
it's fantastic. Those gastronomy with the molecules, I believe is what it's called. But he has fake olives and they taste just like real ones. Reminds me of my prom dress. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the new face of socialism in America, doesn't have any time for her geriatric moderate colleagues on the left. She announced a plan today to help primary Democratic incumbents who don't fit the socialist bill. So is this just a blip or the future of the left? The panel is back. Britt, Matt, and Leslie. There they are. So, Leslie, of course, I will start with you. What is driving this Barack Obama sourness?
I think what's driving it is people like AOC and people that, you know, are wanting to flip blue seats instead of red. And I have to say, as a Democrat,
is that counterintuitive?
It's absolutely ridiculous. Look what happened to us in 2016. You know, the Bernie or bust people that stayed home were part of the reason Hillary Clinton didn't win. I mean, Hillary did a job herself not going to Wisconsin.
They were really put off by the way Bernie was
absolutely. They were upset about their And one thing I have to say Democrats need to do is take a page from the Republican handbook, because Republicans, many I knew, they held their nose and voted for Trump, but they voted R because they're a Republican. And at the end of the day, they unite as a party. Democrats need to do that. This is not a good idea. This is a dumb idea. We did have our blue wave in the House. You could have that again in the next election if you use your power and if you unite. And that's it's too divisive what they're doing, the AOC faction.
But it's really fascinating to me because the Obama presidency, much like the Trump presidency, we won't understand it until we have some historical perspective. So why is this first wave being unkind?
I wish it was for the good reasons. There's plenty of good reasons to criticize Barack Obama, as you mentioned, on civil liberties and on war in particular, because he ran as the anti-war, pro-civil liberties president.
Gitmo's still open.
And didn't president like that. And yet that's not it. If you look at polls right now, Democrats are more pro-war or pro-more intervention than Republicans right now. That's a crazy thing, right? They're attacking Obama because he didn't go full $15 an hour. He didn't go full Bernie-nomics on things. They saw him as a sop out to Wall Street. That's not the good reason to attack Obama. You attack him because he didn't follow these things that Democrats are supposed to care about.
And that he claimed to be passionate and authentic about.
Donald Trump has done more for criminal justice reform than Barack Obama is. He's going to pardon more people probably by the time he's done than Barack Obama.
And
that's
he actually is deporting fewer people, which, you know, the whole thing doesn't make sense. But when you really look at the data, it's a very different story. So with the Bernie Sanders phenomenon, you know, when we were sitting there at the DNC in 2016, that wasn't the end of the Democrat chasm. That was the beginning. I mean, that was really the beginning of a split in the party. How do they heal it?
They need to start doing that, but the problem is, and look, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for all her faults that I might philosophically disagree with, she appeals to young voters. She's on Instagram. She's being relatable, but she's getting too far ahead of herself. I think she sees the rock star phenomenon she's developed. She has 2.4 million followers already. She had a huge upset of a win, and she almost wants that Bernie factor when in reality, she needs to start uniting the party, like you pointed out. I mean, this is a time for them to do a little bit of what Nancy Pelosi is doing and sort of play the game until 2020.
There have been Democrat socialists who say the same thing.
Yeah.
That she needs to focus more on the mission and less on herself. Yeah, which is it's tough to do when everyone is paying attention to every word.
She needs to learn. She's new. Learn from some that went ahead. I mean, there is a game.
Don't always tweet, which I have to tell myself sometimes.
There is a game, and you have to learn how to play it.
Her trolling is pretty funny. We do have a great night still set, but thanks so much to Leslie, Matt, and Britt for making it super special.